Let's preview tonight's Spurs Rockets game and ask, maybe the Spurs should switch Wemby to the 5?
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, this is Hot Rod.
And I'm RC from San Antonio Spurs.
And you're listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
Welcome back to Locked On Spurs. We're here on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Ken's 5 San Antonio. Glad to have you back. Happy Monday, everybody. Hope you're having a great start to your work week, and we'll get you through it right here on Locked On Spurs. This episode of Locked On Spurs is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest, most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code all lowercase LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. By the way, you guys are the everydayers. We appreciate you hopping on Locked On Spurs each and every single day, talking all things silver and black, even though they're on a losing streak. And what are we talking about today? Well, we're going to preview tonight's Spurs Rockets game. Get that out of the way quick. Then we're going to bring in our guest, Casey Viera, my colleague at Ken's 5. He's going to hop on. We're going to discuss just what are the Spurs doing. Spurs are on a 16-game losing streak heading into tonight's game versus Houston. Just what is the assignment here? Just what is the big picture? Also, Wemby at the 5? Is that something the Spurs should tinker with moving forward? Maybe it might work and might solve a lot of problems. We'll discuss that and more with Casey in just a few seconds. But first, your Spurs are in action again tonight. Can they stop this losing streak versus Houston, the in-state rival? Can they avoid loss 17 in a row? Crossing fingers, right? And what better way to end the losing streak than against Houston? Fine. You go on another losing streak after that, whatever. Just don't lose to Houston. I think that's the pulse of the fan base right now. Don't lose to Houston. We'll see if the Spurs can do that. So it's going to quickly preview tonight's Spurs Rockets game. Spurs enter tonight's game 3-18. Rockets are 10-9. And as you all know, the Spurs are on a 16-game losing skid. The last loss was a recent home loss versus Chicago, 121-112. Wemby watching. It was a big one. 21 points and 20 rebounds for the French guy. He is the youngest player in league history with 20 points and 20 rebounds in a game. So there's a bright spot of the season so far. Other Spurs, McDermott had 9 points. Zach Collins had 12 points and 9 rebounds. Sohan 4 points, 4 assists. Keldon Johnson had 20 points. Vassell had 11. Nevertheless, it was a loss for number 16 in a row. Now, for those of y'all on uniform watch, the Spurs will be on their statement edition jersey, the SATX one. I know a lot of you fans hate that one, but it is what it is. That's what they're wearing tonight if you're keeping a score. All right, so what are we looking at tonight? What are we keeping an eye on in hopes that the Spurs win, the good and the bad? Well, let's start off with the Rockets side of things. So doesn't bode well tonight for your Spurs. The Rockets have won 9 straight home games. So enter tonight. It's not going to be a good home, or at least good territory for the Spurs. Again, the Rockets are on a 9-game home winning streak. Now, defense got to step up. And I know that's one of the biggest Achilles heels so far this season for the Spurs, just defense, especially perimeter defense on that 3 line. But the Rockets have recorded 3 consecutive games with more 3-pointers than their opponent. They're knocking him down. So they're finding their groove right now. The Spurs got to key in on that 3 line tonight to slow down Houston. Now, keep an eye on the scoreboard. The Rockets at home are undefeated if they're leading at halftime. They're 7-0. So if they're up and your Spurs are down, not looking good for the second half. Now, on the Spurs side of things, there's some good news and some bad news. The good news is that the Spurs have recorded more assists than their opponents in now 4 straight games. So they're sharing the ball. I had a chance to talk to Zach Collins and Malachi Branham about the fact that the Spurs still, that is a bright spot, for this team, that they can assist and pretty well. I think they're ranked 3rd in the league. And Zach Collins told me that they have to do that they understand that if they start playing ISO ball, it ain't going to work. So they have to share the ball. You've been seeing that lately, double figure scoring for multiple players, but, you got to get more out of them. So that's still some good news. That gives some hope for the Spurs heading into tonight's game versus Houston. Now, in the last 3 games, the Spurs have upped their rebounding to 44 per game. But the bad news is in the last game versus Chicago, on the offensive boards, Chicago just ate them alive. I think it was like 24 for Chicago. So again, they had a big, clunker on the board, especially the O boards. They cannot allow those second chance opportunities for Houston tonight. Bad idea. Don't give those up. There's a team that needs to almost play perfect basketball for 48 minutes for them to have a chance to get a W. And hopefully that W comes tonight versus Houston. So there is your quick Spurs Rockets preview. When we get back, we're going to be joined by Casey Viera. We're going to be asking just WTF is going on this season. What is the assignment? Also, we're going to ask, maybe the Spurs should just tell Wemby, you know what? You know you don't like playing the 5, but here, you're on it. You got to do it. Well, that's coming up next right here on Locked On Spurs. But before we bring on Casey, hey, PrizePicks is the daily fantasy sports you want to go to. It's the largest platform in North America. They're the easiest, most exciting way to play DFS. And it's just you against the numbers. That's it. Instead of battling thousands of other sharks, the pros, look, it's just you. You pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stats and start watching the winnings roll in. Look, with basketball season here, your Spurs are in action. You can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the specials leagues. So it's a league that's created specifically for combo projections that includes 2 or more different players from 2 different sports or leagues. So, for example, Wembanyama and Travis Kelce at a 2.5 combo of 3-pointers made and receptions. So have some fun. Look, the other reason why you should check out PrizePicks. And PrizePicks even offers a reboot policy, so your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. So for football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and doesn't return in the second half, that player is rebooted. PrizePicks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with player injury insurance. So there you go. Hey, look, what more do you need to go to get yourself the PrizePicks app right now? I got it. You should have it too. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks.com/LockedOnNBA. The code is LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy. Hey, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national 24/7 streaming channel.
Hey, this is Chris Sabat, and you're listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
And as promised, he is back, everybody. Casey Viera, my colleague at Ken's 5. Make sure to follow him on X at Casey_Viera. Looking like that dad life is hitting him hard, man. How's it going, Casey?
I told you, we didn't even fix the hair today. We had to go with the hat.
Casey.
Hey, listen, I will gladly now I messed up my hat. I will gladly sacrifice sleep and being peed on. That is being a father for the past 2 or so weeks now. It is awesome. For those who don't know, Casey is a brand new dad. Carter Casey is in the world now, everybody. Enjoying that kid life, having mom and dad tend after him every single minute of the day. Yes. But Casey was able to squeeze out a little bit of time on his dad duties to join us right here in Locked On Spurs. We've been wanting him to come on, but I also been kind of delicate with it because we're trying to respect the fact that, he's a new dad. So when I reached out, he's like, yeah, I'm down. I'm like, let's get him now before Carter says, ring the bell. No, Dad, you ain't done. We picked a good time. Carter just ate. He's sleeping right now. I mean, we have about an hour or so until he wakes up, and then just wash, rinse, repeat, feed, sleep, poop. You know how these newborns work.
Yeah. It sounds like my life right now, too.
I was going to say, really, it's not that far off. If you just separate Cameo at Spurs game in there, is there really any difference between you and a 2-week-old?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Not really. No. Yeah. Same thing. All right. So, Casey, of course, you would come on. And I think the last time you were on, I think they were still losing. And guess what? That hasn't changed at all. They're still losing.
Well, I've been on in the past month, and they haven't won in over a month. So I guess kind of by default, yeah, they were not winning.
They're not winning.
Since the last time I was on, yeah,
and they're still not winning. The last time they won was November 2nd in Phoenix. That was the last time your Silver and Black won a game, everybody. And it doesn't get any easier. They play the Rockets tonight. We'll see how that goes out. But okay, so I got a question for you. You know, so last year, remember, we know what the assignment is, everybody. It's tank for Wemby. Okay, we get it. What's going on? Wink, wink. Okay, sure. We get it. Moving on. But this year, that's been up in the air. Is it the assignment still rebuild? Is the assignment tank? Is the assignment experiment? What are we doing here? We are 3-18 right now. What is the assignment at this point of the season?
Going off what they said and what Pop said at the start of the year in media day, he said taking the next step and kind of racking up this developmental process and turning them now into wins. Well, if we're using his words, kind of paraphrasing here a little bit, if we're going off that was the assignment, turning that stuff into wins. And if that was the assignment, kind of goes without saying, they've done a whole lot of failing of set assignments. If that was it, if that was the assignment, I don't know. We can only go by what he says instead of us speculating whatever it is. So if we're going off what he says, and I think you threw a mandatory in there in that context.
He did.
It hasn't gone very well.
No, not at all.
I can't remember who brought. Maybe it was Mike Taylor. Maybe it was Jimenez. One of them where you said, "Is this season essentially over? Is it a wash? Like, what do you gain from here?" Yeah. In terms of a win-loss standpoint, yeah, definitely is. Oh, so you're already cashed in the season. You're done, right? The season's over. In the context of making a playoff? Yeah, all that stuff. Yeah, okay. You don't lose potentially 17 games, then find yourself, barring something insane, and then figuring it out really quick, looking completely the contrary to the next quarter of the season as they've looked in this first quarter of the season. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think the play-in playoffs is done. It's done. Yeah, it's good. For me, I thought the assignment was winning, as you mentioned. You and I were there at that old Spurs practice gym, and that's what the vibe was. I mean, you had Keldon say it. Didn't Vassell say, "Hey, I'm done, sick and tired of last year, all these losses. I'm here to win, baby." And that hasn't been the case. And it's been so many things that I did not expect to be an issue. The whole, we're young, we're just young guys. And sure, they're the youngest team this Spurs team has fielded since Pop came on board. But in my mind, Casey, it doesn't feel like they should use that excuse anymore, because last I checked, Devin's not a rookie or a sophomore. Same for Keldon. Same for Trey Jones. Same for who else am I missing here? Some of the guys out McDermott. Yeah, Osman, Collins. Yeah, that's what's baffling me. They still use that excuse. We're young. I think that they're not young at all. So to me, the assignment started out as wins, and now I feel like the assignment is in reality what it should have been from day one at media day. And Pop should have said this: "Hey, we're still in rebuild mode." That's what it feels like. That should be the assignment right now. Probably. I think the youngest team in the league narrative, age is kind of like you implied. Age is just kind of a number. Yeah, age is just kind of a number. I think you look with overall experience. While that number of in terms from an age standpoint, they're the youngest team in the league. Like you said, Devin Vassell's been around a minute. Devin Vassell got a big time raise in the offseason because he's been around a minute and he's shown good things. And with that, the expectation should be changing right now. Keldon Johnson last year got a raise because now we're in year 5. The expectation should be changing right now. And all those things, as indicated at the start of the year, were all those things they were being said. The next step in this developmental process is to start turning this development that we talked about for really 2 years now into victories. And I think that's kind of what's been the most disheartening part for a lot of people. It is that you look at them, and while they don't exactly scream that they're the Nuggets, they are not constructed with the pieces that they do have to be a team that's dropping 16 going on 17 games in a row. Nobody's saying that they're going to be a top 4 team in the conference. Nobody's expecting that. But I think a lot of people expected them to at least be competitive in this. If you're going through a 16-game stretch, I think a lot of people would have said, yeah, we expect them. If you told us they're going to go through a big losing stretch of 16 games, and you ask most people, they say, yeah, there's a better chance they go 5-11 than they do 0-16. And that's been the most concerning part about all this. It's the fact that it's not even I don't want to say it's not even competitive, but they just don't. It just doesn't. It's just not good basketball.
It's just not good basketball. And it's baffling because I'm at games, and the most baffling game for me, as far as just like the question we're talking about, what are they doing, is that Memphis game. They were beating them. They were beating them, and sure, I get it. The whole thing this season is, just wait till the 3rd or the 4th and watch it collapse. They were still ahead, and then for them just to wilt like that, I left my media seat just to go to the bathroom, and I came back, and the lead was like double figures down to single digits like that. And I was like, what is going on? And it felt like vibes of last year. And I said, I thought we're past this. And Casey, dare I say, last year's team beats this year's team, even with Wemby? Last year's team at least was competitive. This year, they're getting clubbed. And okay, look, not to bash them too much. In the last few games, there have been a little bit more competitive vibes to them. Their turnovers are dropping a bit. You're seeing baby steps. But Casey, again, why am I talking about baby steps and you're talking about progression? I thought we were past that from last year going into this year. That's what's frustrating for me, Casey.
And I think a lot of this goes back to, it's a valid frustration, I think, for a lot of fans, and a fair criticism. At the start of the year, the talk was not about development. It was completely the contrary to what it was 2 years. Well, I guess not this past the start of the 22-23 season, where Pop's going up there media day saying, hey, don't bet on us to win a championship.
And I appreciated that.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You appreciate that because he let you know right from the start, it ain't going to be pretty this year. We're going to try. We're going to be competitive. It ain't pretty. And so if we go off if we go off of that word, which we did, and that was the understanding, I think it's equally fair to go off the word of what was said at the start of this year. Was all those things we talked about. And I think that's where the fair criticism comes in, because all those things have not happened. All those things have not happened. With the occasion, with the excitement that came with the first 2 weeks of the season, with Wemby looking spectacular, it's been a disaster ever since. It's been a disaster, and I don't know. I'm not entirely sure where it goes from here, because you want to play the glass half full side of the coin. You can say, while they said that, the other part that they probably didn't say, nor would you expect them to say, was them trying to figure out what works around Victor. And if there's anything that we've learned right now, based off the wins, losses, there's not a whole lot that looks good around Victor going forward. There's not. So if you want to play the glass half full on that, you're getting that question answered, for better and for worse, more so for worse. But I think the criticism is reasonable right now because of what was of the foundation and the expectation that was laid from the start. Absolutely. And if that wasn't said, I think that's completely different. If the same tone that was set this year was set, or the same tone that was set last year was set this year, you and I aren't having this conversation.
Absolutely.
The fan base collectively is not frustrated because they told you what it was. This year, they told us and beyond Pop, everyone told us what they thought it was.
Yeah, exactly.
It hasn't been that.
Yeah, absolutely. He is Casey Viera with Ken's 5. Make sure to follow my next at Casey_Viera. When we get back, we're going to be asking, hey, want to rack up some wins, Spurs? push Wemby at the 5. Maybe that might work. Kind of worked already. One game-ish. Didn't get the W, but the results individually were great. We're going to be discussing that coming up next on Locked On Spurs.
This is Emily Swallow, and you are listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
But before we continue our chat with Casey, I want to talk to you about FanDuel. Hey, you got to get FanDuel right now. Get that app. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet on the money line. So basically, you get that $5 winning money line bet. Yeah, you got yourself to win your chance at some big bucks right now. That's $150 if your team wins. So you've been thinking about joining FanDuel. There's no better time to get on the action than right now. The app is easy to use. They got a wide range of betting options from spreads, player props, over-unders, so much more. Have fun. Football season is well underway. NBA season we're not even halfway done yet. It's just getting going. So join all the action for your favorite sports team on FanDuel. Right now, you want to go and visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Kick off, or at least continue to cheer on your favorite NFL season. Cheer on your favorite sport. Whatever you got to do, just get that app right now. FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. I also want to talk to you about Mudslingers Drive-Thru Coffee San Antonio. If you're in San Antonio, you want to head there right now. Their menu is just insane. They have so many drink options. They have dairy alternatives. They have the Red Bull infused Lightning Bolt series. They have, the Alien. And I think you can figure that out, right? That is a drink made in honor of Victor Wembanyama. Full can of Red Bull, kiwi, green apple, delicious. They got mini donuts. They got the Sub-Zero in honor of UTSA's Frank Harris. They got it all. You can get all those drinks at 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive if you're in San Antonio. That's in the 281 and 1604 area. Friendly staff. They're a proud local sponsor of Locked On Spurs and a proud community member right here in San Antonio. And let me tell you, you also got to try their Mudslinger. That is their signature drink. So if you want an introduction to coffee, get that. That'll get your foot in the door, and then you can enjoy all the wide range of drinks they have at Mudslingers. Over 300 five-star reviews cannot be wrong. Again, 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive. If there are, if you have that craving for a quick pick-me-up or something just to ease you through the day, they have it there at Mudslingers. Open every day from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Go there right now, San Antonio, 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive. Open every day from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Life is too short for bland coffee.
Hey, everybody, this is Nathan Ray Clark from Criminal Minds and Modern Family, and you are listening to Locked On Spurs, hosted by Victor Wembanyama's new best friend, Jeff Garcia.
And we're back right here on Locked On Spurs with Casey Viera. No sign of Carter yet, so that's a good thing. Casey doesn't have to run off real fast or anything. I can't wait till Carter makes his Locked On Spurs debut. That'd be cool.
Yeah, we'll see. Carter's in that phase right now where he does a whole lot of sleeping. So
yeah. Yeah, sounds like me before we started recording this episode of Locked On Spurs.
Yeah, he sleeps about, I think it was 17-ish hours a day. I think that's the stat of what they say newborn sleeps, 14 to 17 or 5, something like that.
How many hours of sleep you've been averaging since you became a new dad?
Surprisingly,
yeah,
probably somewhere in that 6 to 8 altogether.
Okay, all right, that's a good tag team. You and your wife,
Yeah.
All right.
So she runs I wouldn't say tag team, more so she's the superstar. I'm the manager.
Yeah, you're like the 12th man on the roster.
I know. I'm her.
Yeah.
Paul Heyman. I'm her. Jimmy Hart. Yeah.
Make sure to follow him on X at Casey_Viera. Congratulate him on his newborn baby son, Mr. Carter, and let him know that you're sending some good thoughts for Carter's new life, and of course Casey and his wife as they enter another phase of their relationship. Parents. So good luck to you guys. Hey, yeah, exactly. Beautiful things. Hey, we're talking about the last segment about, what's just going on, the losing and this and that. But, there could be something they can do right now that'll maybe pick up some wins or at least, tilt the odds that way. And that is putting Wemby at the 5. Now, let's be clear, Casey. I think you, me, and everybody watching knows this. But if Casey didn't know, since pre-draft, Wemby has been very adamant. I am not a 5. I am not this. I'm everything. I want to do everything. Don't pigeonhole me. Well, guess what, Wemby? You at the 5 actually worked, and you broke a record. Yeah, it worked very well. 20-20 first rookie to do that, all that good stuff. So way to go, Wemby. So now the question is, should the Spurs just tell Wemby, you know what? You're a 5. Let's just move forward, or still kind of let him be that free-floating player that he's practically been since the start of the season?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. It worked, and he was fantastic. And the thing that I liked was, if you're going up against a true physical 5, more so your classic 5 as opposed to the modern day stretch 5, the one that you're worried about, a 7'4", 200, however many pound guy, Victor Wembanyama, that you're worried about is Andre Drummond. And that's the guy you're worried about, because he's probably about as strong as anyone in the league.
Yep.
And Victor went out and he competed. And there were times where Drummond shoved him off like he was a 19-year-old kid going up against one of the strongest, if not the strongest player in the league. And Victor still worked out a 20 game. I think, knowing that from a physicality standpoint, you're probably not going to get much more physical than that. And he hung around, he competed. And I know that won't be the case every single night, just by default.
Yeah.
But I like the competitive in watching him, even more so than the Phoenix games. Down the stretch, it felt like that was the most aggressive, most competitive, most fired up we have seen Victor so far, in my opinion. Because there were times down the floor where, on a box out or on a free throw line box out, Drummond just knocked him totally legal, just muscled him to the side. But you could see it kind of turned on Victor. So how did he respond? Went on the baseline, did one of his dunks on a baseline spin move, and kept going with it, and ultimately turned out that 2020 game. And hopefully more so when he was saying, I'm not a 5, he meant that from the, like you said, the pigeonhole standpoint. That I can do a whole lot more than just be a center. And I think we can all collectively agree that he can do a whole lot more than that. But it felt very much so that was the type of thing that has legs to it, that has longevity to it, at least from one night only. And if we're going off that and what we're learning and trying to figure out what works, the Spurs found something that works.
Yeah, exactly. And if they're with this whole experimental phase of the rebuild, then hey, this experiment worked. Wemby at the 5. So yeah, I think you move forward with that. Now, after the game versus Chicago, he didn't push away the thought of being a 5 moving forward. He just, the whole canned answer, well, if it helps the team, blah, blah, blah. But if Pop is so good about leaning on the big 3 for examples, hey, I was so rough on Tony Parker, DeJounte, you should be able to take it. Hey, Keldon or Devin or whoever, Manu was a 6-man. You should be okay with it. Why not use that with Tim Duncan and Wemby? Hey, Wemby, Tim Duncan was a 4, but you know what? He played a 5, and look at his career. It actually was pretty good, Destination Hall of Fame. So I think if you want to really help Wemby develop and get his mindset right, maybe kind of get the whole idea that maybe wearing the 5 more often than not works for you, and the numbers show it, at least for one night. Why not do that? Yeah, I think this is something the Spurs got to do. They got to tinker with it. During the break, you and I were discussing about the season as a whole. We're saying, look, it's practically a wash already. It's cooked. So what do you got to lose other than putting him in a position to put up monster numbers, help him secure that Rookie of the Year award race? Maybe that might help him there, because Chet seems to be playing pretty good right now as well. So I think all in all, I think if we can experiment with Sohan at a point guard, why can't we experiment with Wemby at the 5 for a long stretch?
Right. And I think one of the bothersome parts of this first quarter of the season for me was that everyone talks so much about the Sohan experiment, starting him at point guard.
Yeah. And
there's a trickle-down effect with that Sohan move, because you're focusing that point guard position is so much a focal point that you're essentially prioritizing his development because over Victor's development at that first quarter of the season, because he's the guy who takes a large share in the responsibility of giving Victor the basketball, very much so. And there, again, to Pop's own words, paraphrasing here, that free flowing, let Victor, we'll let Victor be him. We won't really coach him yet. We'll just let him kind of go and do him, figuring out what works. Well, kind of found something that works.
You did.
Schematically a little different because there hasn't overly, from the outside, I'm sure they see it, but from the outside looking in, that was the most dramatic schematical adjustment that they've done with Victor so far this season.
Yeah,
right?
I liked it. I thought it was brilliant. That was kind of the buzz on Media Row that night. Like, whoa, Victor at the 5. Like, how's this going to work out? And it worked out well. So the Spurs, if you want to get some wins and snap this losing skid or just avoid more to pile up, why not go for it? Look, sure, it didn't result in no W versus Chicago, but it worked for Victor, and it could pan out moving forward. Look, I know a lot of Spurs fans have been just ripping their hair out about this, about Victor at the 5, Victor 5 works out, and they did it, and it worked. So Spurs, you got something there. If you're in experimental mode right now, good on you. This actually worked. Hey, we're done talking. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you think about tonight's Spurs Rockets game. Should Victor be more at the 5? And your thoughts on just what are they doing here? What is going on? What is this season's assignment now at this point of the season? You can let Casey know on X at Casey_Viera. Again, Casey, we know you're busy with dad life, man, but we appreciate you carving out a little bit of time. Well, maybe we should be thanking Carter for allowing you to come on Locked On Spurs. Yeah.
Yep. Everything around him. Everything's around him now. I was just worried we get to, we're recording this, was 11 a.m. on a Sunday. Yeah. And I worried we'd get to the point where we get to 11:02 and be like,
Yep. No. I was anticipating maybe your wife to be like scurrying across the background and like not realize you're on camera telling you like, hurry up, I need dad. Or something like that.
She's the greatest.
Yeah, exactly. Or Carter just saying, you know what, I'm just gonna belt out a cry right now. That should do it.
Well, like I told you before he went on, right before we started in the past hour, he was well fed, he pooped, he's sleeping. We have about hopefully an hour window before it's wash, rinse, repeat again, and welcome to newborn life.
Welcome to newborn life. Sounds like something I want to do. That's why I'm going to get off this episode of Locked On Spurs. All those three things right there.
That's your big takeaway out of this. Your life is not too different than a 2-week-old.
Yeah, exactly. He is the weekend sports anchor for Ken's 5, and I believe you're back-ish, kind of, right? You're ish.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you're back.
I'm back. So
okay, you're back. Okay.
Sunday night, first time back. So paternity is sort of over. I guess paternity never really ends.
Yeah, it never really ends. Yeah, but he is.
Standpoint.
Yeah, he is back in your television sets every weekend, telling you all things going on in the sports world and the San Antonio.
What will be a heavily make-upped Casey Viera because
exactly.
I'm looking at myself now. I was like, we're gonna need a little extra cake on the face, a little something.
There you go.
Special more under the eyes because. Yeah, we'll be all right.
Yeah, we are. You'll be okay. You'll be all right. Before Casey Viera, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.